When you've had a long week and want to mix it up with something new and interesting to eat, try Blue Apron's 2 or 4 serving menu plans with those hard-to-find ingredients sure to spice up your weekend. With 60-plus options each week, you can choose from an ever-changing mix of high-quality meat, fish, vegetarian, WW recommended, and wellness offerings. Order now and get $110 off across your first 5 orders when you visit blueapron.com/unique.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Direct-to-Video Connoisseur. I am Matt, and as always, I'm joined by Jamie. Jamie, how are you this evening?
I am doing well this evening.
I know
ready to go.
Bit of a late start tonight. I got a late start watching the movie and realized, like, oh man, I was trying to watch it, and then things were coming up, and I said, it's not happening. So watching this is an interesting movie as far as like being late on it goes, because it's one of those ones where you kind of want to, it had a better ending than beginning, but it's still overall but yeah, so I apologize for the lateness tonight, but and the funny thing is, of course, 90% of you, or maybe 99% of you, don't even know that this is late, because you're just going to download the iTunes, and so you're just like, we could have done this at 2 in the morning and it wouldn't have mattered to you. So, exactly. So, what do you think? Do you want to jump right into the film, or are there anything that you wanted to chat about before we get right in there?
Let me think. I can't think of anything I need to get off my chest beforehand.
Yeah, I was trying to think of administrative things. I do know I was behind on. I got the podcast, last week's podcast, the Abe Lincoln flick. I got that one up right onto the talk shoe right away, but I didn't. Again, I was a little late in getting it onto the archive page and on Facebook and whatnot. So I still haven't put it on Facebook. I'll probably do that after this episode. But so it's always, if you can, if you can do either the podcast, subscribe on iTunes, or check us out on my page on mattmovieguy.com, and the RSS feed will have it there. So the moment I upload it, within about an hour or two, it ends up on the RSS feed. So those are ways to get it if something comes up and I'm not able to get those on there in a timely manner. But because I do think, especially that Abe Lincoln one, we really needed to get the word out on that one.
The word out to avoid it.
I know. So I guess this film here, The Prince. I saw John Cusack. I saw Bruce Willis. I even saw Jason Patric, and I saw that it was on Netflix, and it was an hour and a half. And I thought, hey, good deal. Let's give it a try. Jamie, what do you think? Was it a good deal after all?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I was pleased with this one, and it didn't lose me at all. It didn't. Not once was I bored or thought, oh my God, the shit that we have to watch. All the thoughts that usually go through my head.
Right.
And very early on, Brian made the comment that, wow, this is already 90% better than most of the movies you watch for this show.
Yes.
So this was one that he didn't even mind
Well,
watching, which is something.
Yes. So we didn't put Brian through the ringer this week, which is good. Now for me, I did have some qualms with this that kind of kept it from being really good, but they seem to clean those qualms up quick. early enough, I guess, in the film. But one, I felt like it started a little slowly. But one thing they did that was really good, I thought, was when Jason Patric early in the film, we kind of have an idea that this guy is kind of a badass. And that scene where he gets beat up by those punks that work for the drug dealer.
Yeah.
I was glad that they really dealt with that very quickly.
Me too. And go ahead.
No, I was gonna say
I want to weigh in on it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't want a Superman 2 going on here with the jerk at the diner. You know what I mean? I didn't want to have to wait for that satisfaction. So it kind of let me know that okay, this movie is like you said, it's or as Brian said, it's better than 90% of the films we watched. It cleaned up some of its mistakes early on, which I appreciated.
Yeah, I agree with that. That scene in particular when he's got these three guys and they're just beating him down and he's on the ground in a fetal position. I'm like, oh god. And then 2 seconds later he gets up and he's like, I'm not going anywhere. And they're like, okay buddy, we can do this all day if you want. And then all of a sudden he just like he gets at it.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. And I turned to Brian. I was like, I was waiting for him to pull out that badass because I really hate seeing a badass or someone because at this point, up to this point, we had not seen him do anything really badass before.
Mm-hmm.
We had reason to believe that he was one, but we had not seen proof of it. And so when he did that, I was just like, I hate seeing a badass get beat up. It really bothers me when someone is a badass just takes a beating and then they don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And then you have to wait like way later in the movie for them to finally get retribution.
Mm-hmm.
I was so happy that this was immediate. I mean, he just jumped up and immediately whooped all their asses and like, that's how you do it. Because I don't want any of those guys thinking you're a pussy.
Yeah.
For any amount of time, and so I mean, it irritates me when that happens, and I'm just like, I mean, I understand why maybe a filmmaker might do that. They might say, well, we're gonna temper it for a while and then let them come back, and then they'll come back stronger, and then eventually those guys will learn their lesson, or whatever. I don't know. I just want to see them whip their ass. That's all. That's what I want. Immediate gratification.
Mm-hmm.
And we got that.
Yeah.
And so I was very pleased about that. As far as this going slowly in the beginning, I didn't really feel that. I was pretty much on board from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea that this is a guy who is going. I mean, I guess the only slow part I get is the very, very beginning where we get sort of the flashback of like the hitman time.
Mm-hmm.
But even that didn't last very long. But I'm a big fan of movies where the guy goes looking for his strung out daughter or whatever. I mean, I would have been totally happy if that were the entire story.
Mm-hmm.
If it was like that George C. Scott movie, let's call it like Angel or what the hell is the name of that movie? Where George C. Scott goes looking for his daughter on the strip
yes.
I just like movies like that. And so I would have been completely happy if the whole movie was just him kicking the asses of little druggy assholes, and until he got to his daughter and then taking her back home. That would have made me happy. But what we did get here was a much deeper story that, sort of tied into that, which I was also okay with. I felt that like a lot of times when you try to do something bigger like that, like, oh yeah, it just so happens that this guy is an ex-hitman for the mafia, and it just so happens that this is the town where this shit went down 20 years ago, and it just so happens that Bruce Willis still holds a grudge because his family got killed. Normally, something like that could make me, groan. I'm like, oh man, could you have forced this any harder? But I just didn't feel that way here. I was along for the ride. I liked the character a lot. And immediately I was on his side. I even liked the little Angela, the little girl that he picked up, his daughter's friend. At first she was a little bit of a cunt. But
I was gonna say you liked her.
No, not in the beginning. But she grew on me.
See, for me, I was like, man, the sooner they could get rid of her, the better. They finally dumped her off with John Cusack. See, I felt like she was really playing the annoying teen girl too well,
Well,
and I don't want that in my movie. But,
she was doing that really well,
yes.
and yeah, she was in the beginning. I didn't like her, but
Yeah.
she kind of grew on me, and I did find her character kind of jumped a little bit quickly
Mhm.
because on one hand she's going, can you please just drive me home? This isn't what I signed up for, and I don't want to have anything to do with this, and I don't want to be here, and blah blah blah. I want to go home. And then 5 minutes later, I'm not leaving.
Right.
I'm not leaving, and I didn't come all this way so I can not know what happened to her. She's
Right.
my friend, and I'm like, well, where was that attitude? She's my friend. I want to help her. Where was that last night
Yes.
when he asked you to do this? Back then, you didn't act like you gave a damn.
Yeah.
So I do think that was a little bit quick on her character's part, but I was okay with that. I mean, and by the time we got to the end, I liked her. And um, also Jonathan Sheck was
Mhm.
here,
Mhm.
and I didn't expect that. And so and he'd had a small role. He played Frank, the arms dealer guy, the gun
Yes.
store guy,
Yeah.
and I didn't I didn't recognize him right away. It was the second time that we saw him, and I was just looking at him, and I had to sit up because I was laying on the floor while watching the movie. And then I sat up, and I was like, "Is that Jonathan Sheck?"
Mhm.
And Brian's like, "I don't know, who's that?" So I rattled off a list of movies that he was in, and he's like, "No, no, no." And I'm like, "He's like,
Yeah.
I'm waiting for you to get to a good movie."
Wait,
And
so which one was the
no,
one? What was the one that
there,
got him?
well, there was. I don't think there was one. I don't know if he. You know,
There.
I did mention the Forsaken, which is a vampire film. It's not good. And he's like, oh, I know that movie. He's like, but I'm still waiting for you to get to a good one. I'm like, I don't know that there are
See,
any good ones, but
yeah, I didn't
I mean,
recognize
the
him
Doom
now.
Generation. I like the Doom Generation, and he's in that. Uh,
Quarantine.
but Quarantine. I think it was Quarantine 2. Or maybe no, it was the first one, Quarantine, and then but it was Poison Ivy 2, the one with Alyssa Milano. He was in
Yes,
that.
that's right.
And so anyway, I'm rattling off all these movies, and he's like, no,
Mhm.
no, and no, and even if he knows the movie, he still didn't click who I was talking about. But anyway, I was like, I think it's him, so I looked it up, and it was him.
That's
And
a
so that was somebody that I didn't expect. He just kind of showed up out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's a great pull. 'Cause I did not recognize. I'm looking at him like that. Oh my God, that was him. I didn't recognize him either. I did.
Oh,
I
I know. One of the most recent ones was the Prom Night remake. He
Right.
played the bad guy in the Prom Night remake, and Brian's like, still waiting for a good movie.
Yes.
I'm like, yeah, well,
Oh.
he's always been like one of those C-list actors. I don't,
Mhm.
he just, I don't know. I've always liked him, but he's not all that well known. And honestly, I think he looks really good now. The last time I saw him, he was looking kind of strung out. Like he went through a really bad period for a while where he just looked really old and gaunt and druggy. And uh,
Mhm.
I don't know if he really was or if that was just what he was doing with his character. I have no idea. But I thought he looked good here and good and healthy. And that's why it took me a second to recognize him, I think. But so yeah, and him. And did you say 50 Cent earlier?
50 Cent was
Yeah.
yeah. Now 50 Cent he has been in a few of the Bruce Willis ones that I've looked at directed. So he seems to do these either Michigan or New Orleans um, DTV flicks. And this one, I don't know what the deal is. If like this was a a 1 day, pay for 1 day kind of deals with him to get him in there, or if he had something else to do with it. I mean, one of the things that kind of gave me a bad feeling about this film that fortunately went away was the fact that we had like 5 or 6 animations for either production companies or even like the investment group had its
Hmm.
own animation at the beginning. It was have you ever seen the Family Guy that made fun of that? Where they're at the movie theater and they keep thinking the movie's starting and it's just another.
Yes.
Yes, and so
Yeah.
I was like, what is going on here now? So maybe he was a part of the investment group or something, but he seems to show up in a lot of these. And in fact, actually, Bruce Willis seems to show up in a lot of them too. So
And
maybe,
it honestly breaks my heart to
yeah.
see Bruce Willis show up in a direct-to-video film.
Yeah.
Not that, I mean, there are good direct-to-video movies. I think this is one of them, but
Mhm.
it it just makes me sad
Yeah.
because he was at one point he was box office gold,
Hmm.
and you don't really see him in the box office anymore. And I don't know if they feel like he can't, and this is what he's been like, if this is what he's been reduced to, or if I don't know. I don't know what the reasoning is, but it makes me sad.
Yeah, I wonder
John
too.
Cusack too. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, both. I mean, I like, it doesn't it kind of sound strange that with the Liam Neeson action hero movement in in the box office right now, doesn't it seem odd that Bruce Willis is somehow? I mean, I know he was doing a bunch of Die Hard sequels, which I think people just got tired of. But doesn't it just seem like he would be perfect for some of these Liam Neeson actioners, like the style of them,
yeah, I
anyways?
mean, I am a huge Bruce Willis fan, and I will watch anything he does. I honestly, I don't even know of a Bruce Willis movie that I don't like, and that even includes like Last Boy Scout,
I love that
and
one.
and what's the one that nobody likes? The boat one where he's the
Oh
cop.
yes, Striking Distance.
Striking
Yes,
Distance.
with
I
Sarah Jessica
love,
Parker. Yes.
yeah, I love Striking Distance, and
Yes.
it's just, to me, he can really just do no wrong.
Yeah.
I love him, and I'm I look at him and go, yeah, he can still bring in the money. Why not?
Yeah.
And but I don't know, because I don't know. I don't think the last Die Hard movie really did that well.
No.
Um, so I don't
Yeah.
know. Do you know what though? I didn't even know that was Jason Patric.
You didn't.
I didn't even recognize him
Uh,
until you said it, because I hadn't. I knew that Bruce Willis was in it, and John Cusack, and I even had noticed 50 Cent. I saw his name on the
mhm.
on the credits leading in. Somehow I missed Jason Patric, and the whole time I'm like, God, they have so many big people and like
Mhm.
doing doing parts in this movie. Like, they obviously had to throw some money at them, and you're not gonna. And whenever you see in a direct-to-video film and you see really big names, you're not gonna see them a lot. Like, you're
Right.
not gonna see them for a really long time because they only have so much money
Mhm.
to throw, and they have to throw quite a bit of money at people like Bruce Willis to get him to do a movie like this, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah.
So, but then I was like, well, this guy, the lead guy, I was like, they've got all these other people,
Right.
all these big name people, and then this lead guy that I've never seen before. And I'll be goddamned if it's not Jason
It was
Patric.
Jason Patrick.
I
Yes.
just have not seen him in a while, I guess. I mean, he
Yeah.
went and aged on me. I didn't know. He is not the Jason Patrick from Rush anymore,
No.
or the
No.
Jason Patrick from The Lost Boys. I guess I forgot that he would have aged. And I was the whole time like, he reminds me of somebody.
Yeah.
And who does he remind me of? And I kept thinking he reminds me of that guy, and I don't know his name, but he was in like Gone in 60 Seconds, the remake with Nicolas Cage. He
Oh
played
yes.
the his friend. I don't know. I mean, the guy that I'm thinking of, he always does like little roles,
Mhm.
and I'm like, he kind of reminds me of him, but it's not him. I know it's not him. I don't know who that is. And I'll be damned if it what you as soon as you said
Jason
Jason
Patrick.
Patrick, I'm like, son of a bitch, that was Jason Patrick.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm such a moron. I'm over there picking out Jonathan Sheck, who's on screen for like
You nailed him.
35 seconds,
You got that one
and
perfect.
I get the entire runtime with this guy, and I didn't even recognize him.
Yeah.
What a
Well,
fool!
because for me, that's what I was thinking about watching this film was like, you know, we see so many of these with these big names on the cover, like Bruce Willis, John Cusack, Dolph, even, all of these bait and switches. And so to have a movie like this that was really, I thought was really anchored by Jason Patrick, that he gave, because he is, I mean, we remember him from Narc, Lost Boys, of course, was more of a fun film. But, I mean, I think Narc was kind of his breakout one. And he popularized the hoodie with the leather jacket look for the early to mid 2000s. But I thought, man, him in this film, I think there were parts where the film lagged, or that the film had problems that he, because it's a direct to video movie, there are certain things that they can't get away with, like the car chase scene was lacking. And so here we have this car chase scene that was kind of crap, and then they get into the accident, and Jason Patric just screeches the car back after the other guys get into an accident so he can go and find out who was chasing him. And he's just total badass about it and just nails the scene perfectly. And it just completely wiped away any of that bad taste that was left over from that bad chase scene. There was just a whole bunch of bad edits, and of course the overdubs of the girl screaming, which was just really bad. Just oh, that was just the whole thing just didn't work. But yet here comes Jason Patric in to just mop up the pieces, which was just fantastic.
Yeah, it was. He really, I mean, he sold it.
Mm-hmm.
I think he took a hold of this role and just went with it. And I mean, the whole time I'm thinking he's someone I've never seen before, and I'm totally buying into this, him being a badass,
Right.
And then, when I find out, hey, you do know him very well, as a matter of fact,
Yes.
that makes it even better because I don't know if I had realized going in that he was going to be in the lead. I don't know how I would have felt about that. I mean, I don't know if that would have changed anything at all, but maybe I would have been distracted by that fact, and maybe it was good that I didn't.
Well, I
think
thought,
I,
I thought Bruce Willis was going to be the lead, which silly me. Of course, we know he's just going to get paid for his day's work and get a day's work worth of shooting in the film. So I thought it was just, I thought he was the lead. I thought he was the mob assassin whose daughter was kidnapped. It seemed to make more sense. And which is one thing that's interesting about Jason Patric's character, saying that 20 years ago these things happened. I think I looked on IMDb. I think he was born in like 66 or 64, something like that. So, I mean, I guess we're getting at that point where if he's 50 now, it was 20 years ago when he was 30. His character was 30 when he did these things, which, I guess that's the reality we have to face, is that Jason Patric is 50.
Yeah, and that we're not all that far behind.
No.
That's the harsh reality of it, is
Yes.
that I'm like, oh, they can't be. I constantly have to remind myself, like, oh, they can't be that old. They're only, oh my Lord.
They
Like
are.
today, Nancy Allen is 65 years old. I'm like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
It happens.
When did she become an old woman?
Yeah.
She was just wearing that teddy in Dressed to Kill.
Yes. Yes, I know. It wasn't that long ago.
And, or she was just, hanging out with John Travolta, getting ready to pour that bucket of blood on Carrie's head, and suddenly she's 65?
Yeah.
What the hell? Of course, that was, almost 40 years ago. But time just kind of creeps up. And that's probably why. Like, I never pictured him being that old. And so it just, wow.
Yeah.
Will Patton, by the way, is the guy that I was thinking he reminded me of.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually going to do a side by side. I'm going to post a picture of Will Patton and with Jason Patric. I'm going to post that on our Facebook page. And so anybody who wants to go to our Facebook page and check that out, you'll see why I thought that, because looking at them now, I still think
I'm kind of curious myself to check that out. I'm kind of curious to see because I mean, because I guess because I knew it was Jason Patric. I knew he was our guy. But it's easy to lose his name too when you have all those animations that you think are not, are the movie, that aren't the movie. That it's easy to lose if he's the top billed guy. I think there was like 8. It was like 8 different after like they kind of went through a few names. There was 8 separate credits, I think, that said it was like a so-and-so production of a so-and-so investment of a so-and-so film.
Well, that was another thing that Brian said when. Okay, I don't know if you ever watched CinemaSins on YouTube. It's a YouTube show. It's really great. Where they do like everything wrong with, and they'll just do any movie, any movie from like horror movies to Jurassic Park to 50 Shades of Grey, whatever. He just does all genres of film, and he does like everything wrong with this movie in like 15 minutes or less. And one of the things he always picks on is when they have like 3 minutes of credits or 3 minutes of production companies beforehand.
Yes.
And Brian threw that out in the beginning because he was like, "Damn,
Yeah,
with all of this stuff." And I mean, it's like a Disney movie. I mean, like, when you go to watch a Disney movie, you're going to be sitting there for like 15 minutes before the movie actually starts.
Right.
While they pimp all their shit, and that's what that's what it always reminds me of whenever movies do that. Now I'm like, God, what is this, Disney?
Yeah. I, it, the fact that the investment group got their own animation, that's the reality we're at right now, is that the investment group. So now it's going to be like, German billionaire Hans, and he's gonna have his own little animation of like little words spinning around, and maybe like a cute like computer graphic, and it's going to be Hans Investment Corporation production, and so that's what we're going to be dealing with, Sheikh Omar in Saudi Arabia that wanted to fund a film, his dad's the king, he's one of the 20 sons, he's going to have his own little animation. That's what we're going to that's the reality. It's going to take us 10 minutes to get to the movie pretty soon.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. And but I think a movie like this, I think what it does for a movie like this is it makes us think it's going to be complete crap, and then we get into it and it's a better deal. It sort of sells the movie short when it's I think it takes a movie like this that should be taken more seriously, and makes it a little crass.
Well, I personally prefer going into a movie thinking it's going to be crappy and
Yes.
finding out that it's not, over
Right.
going into a movie with high hopes
Yes.
only to have them dashed.
Yes.
Um,
I-
that is, if I have to pick one, that's what I pick.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think this is one of those. Like it, and I feel like Bruce Willis was even in it more than I expected him to
Mhm.
be. To be honest, I mean, he only had, if you add it all up, he only had a few minutes of screen time, really. I mean, under 10, I would say. But he was peppered throughout, which
Yeah.
kind of gave the illusion that he was there more than that.
Mhm.
John Cusack had a smaller role than that, but I really don't even understand what the purpose of him being there was,
Right.
because that could have been anyone.
Yeah.
It was not necessary to have John Cusack in the sanctuary role because he
Right.
didn't really do anything.
Yes.
And I don't really know what the point of that was, unless, someone owed somebody, like, lost a bet, or,
Right.
you know, he owed them a favor, so he had to come do their movie, or I'm not really sure what that was about, but um, it it just wasn't necessary to have him. But you know, whatever.
Well,
50 Cent, of course, was in there for no time. I
right.
mean, that was crazy. Yeah, the lack of screen time that he got. Not that that hurts my feelings or anything, but
Well, it kind of makes me wonder with some of these, like I wonder too if some of these actors are like down there in Louisiana doing another film, because Louisiana is kind of like Michigan in that sense that Michigan has had its economy hurt for different reasons, with the auto industry pulling out and all of those things. But then Louisiana, of course, has suffered between the BP oil spill explosion, and of course Katrina, and so both of them are like kind of using film as a way to get their economies back on track. And so they both have that sort of direct-to-video, like Lionsgate distributed type deal. And so I noticed that like Bruce Willis, 50 Cent, they tend to be in a lot of them. And maybe John Cusack is starting to move in that direction. And so I wonder if maybe they're down there shooting something else for maybe the same production company. And they're like, hey, you want to do a day over here, we'll pay you whatever for a day and you'll be in this film too. And so it gets them
yeah,
a few at a time or something.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I don't, and that's not unheard of,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, you talk about how much you love Bruce Willis. I felt like we got some vintage Bruce Willis at the end when he was holding Patrick's daughter hostage. There was a few lines that felt like Pulp Fiction-esque lines or Die Hard-esque lines. There, like at least the voice and the cadence and everything.
I was thinking the same thing. I
Yeah.
agree with that,
Yeah,
which made me totally happy.
me too. I was like, yeah, I think I had looked away from the screen a little bit, and I heard the voice, and I was like, oh my God, Bruce Willis, this is, where have you been, the past 25 years?
Yeah, where has he been?
Oh,
Makes me sad.
yeah, we need that Bruce Willis. We need more of that Bruce Willis. We need the, I'll punch you in your pot belly, Bruce Willis. Yes, that's dead, baby. We need that.
yeah, I think the last time I saw Bruce Willis is when he was cheering on Rumor Willis when she was doing like Dancing with the Stars or whatever. And I didn't even watch the show. I just saw like it was on some social media or TMZ or something where they were like, Bruce Willis is in the audience. And I'm like, oh, I haven't seen him in a long time. That's the closest I've come to seeing Bruce Willis in a while.
Hmm.
One thing I thought was interesting with his character is, did you notice how like digitally erased his
Yeah.
wrinkles were in the
Yes.
flashback scene?
Yes.
I was like, oh, weird. It's weird looking. Yet they still kept most of the gray in his beard. And I'm like, if you had just like done some temporary color on his beard, that would have been plenty enough to make it look, rewind him
Mhm.
for some time. And I was like, but it looked kind of bizarre to me the
Yeah.
way that his wrinkles were gone, and it seemed pretty clear to me that they were like digitally removed. His face was just really smooth.
Hmm.
And to me, when you do that, if you do it too much, like I felt like they did here, it sort of removes all the character from the face too,
Hmm.
and he's like a blank slate. I don't know. And it was only there were very quick scenes, and most people probably wouldn't even care or pay that much attention. But I noticed because I was like, oh, something's weird,
Yeah.
And the thing about Bruce Willis is forever. I mean, for years and years and years, even 20 years ago, he's always had these like deep set character lines
Hmm.
in his face. He's always been very expressive, and that's one of the things that I've always loved about him. That crooked little wicked smile that he does,
Hmm.
and he always has had those lines. And so you take him out, and I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Who is that? So that was kind of weird, but I guess they were just trying to say, well, this is 20 years ago. But then what it still baffled me because he still had gray in his beard. And I'm like, well, why don't you just give him like some Just for Men or
I know.
something, or Grecian formula or something
Well, I
for his beard?
well
And
no, I think they tried to do the same thing with the beard. It just didn't work
it
as
just
well.
didn't work. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, is it that? I mean, I guess it's that expensive or maybe that difficult down there to get that level. Maybe you'd have to fly in somebody from LA to do the makeup to make. I guess you'd use prosthetics or something. I mean, when you watch the clips or commercials of that show on Sci-Fi where people do real makeup, or you think about episodes of Star Trek, the kind of makeup that people do to make Klingons and things like that. You'd think that you'd be able to put some prosthetics on Bruce Willis, but maybe you can't. Maybe it's hard to make somebody look younger with that kind of thing, and so that's it. You just gotta, I guess, do it that way. I don't know. I agree with you though, and I feel like there were a few things like that maybe it's better just to let us use our imaginations, just imagine that it was 20 years ago.
Right. Right.
I mean, would you have come into this episode saying, "Nope, I can't do this movie"? Bruce Willis.
It
That
didn't
was
look like it was 20 years
right.
ago when it was 20
Yes.
years. Hell no, because I
Right.
love him so much I wouldn't give a shit. That's honestly. The Speaking about the 20 years ago though,
Mhm.
for him to be such like got his fingers in everything bad going on in New Orleans asshole, did it seem bizarre that he was as loving and just, I mean, not with just his kid but with his wife too. I mean, he was just so, okay, see you later, oh, let me take a picture of you two before you
Yeah.
go off to school. And I'm like, really?
The sentimental mob boss. Yes.
I'm like, wow, okay. You are living like two completely different lives here. You're gonna, I mean, you just turn around and you're gonna gun somebody down, or
Right.
have somebody killed in a really horrible way, and about all this human trafficking going. About this, like,
Yeah.
these drug dens where they're keeping girls all strung out, and
Mhm.
this is okay. All of this is okay, but you got to hurry up and get a picture of your little girl with her mom before they go off to school for the first day.
Right.
I was just like, what?
Well, and think about
How
20.
weird is that?
I was gonna say too, like 20 years ago, before the advent of camera phones on where
Yeah.
now it seems like everybody takes pictures all the time, but back then,
Yeah, he actually had to pull out the
right?
35 millimeter
Yes.
calendar. He actually had to pull out the 35 millimeter camera with a little thing
Yes.
to take. I mean, he was ready. So it's
Yes.
not like he just said, "Oh, let me take your picture," and pulled his phone out of his pocket.
Yeah.
He had the camera with him. Like he went down there knowing I'm gonna take a picture of my wife and my little girl.
Yes.
And I don't know, it just seems weird.
Yeah, I mean, how many dads do you know, like 20, 25 years ago, that were all about getting the first day of school picture for their
Yeah, I mean,
kids?
regular dads, I
Yes.
don't know that many who did that, much less like mob boss dads.
Yes.
Maybe there's something about these guys that I don't maybe I don't completely understand their culture like
Right, right.
like the kingpin mafia lead bad guy culture. Maybe I just don't
Oh,
know that many of them, so I don't have any basis of comparison, but
hmm.
it just seems a little bizarre to me. And he's got his two henchmen like hanging out behind
Right.
him like every day.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, it's just not what I expected, I guess. And I
Yeah.
guess that's supposed to impart to us exactly how much he did love his family and
Hmm.
how much it broke his heart when they were taken away from him,
Hmm.
but it just seemed a little over the top, I
Hmm.
guess, for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I.
Just, and again, that's a little thing. It is a very little thing, and I don't mean to be so picky. It's just one of the things that stuck out to me because I'm like, God, he's really friendly. Like,
Right. Yes. Well.
to be such a bad guy, like we're supposed to hate him. He's really friendly right now. He's an awesome guy. They're gonna have a picnic later.
Right, exactly. Well, I think it's a good thing to poke fun at. I think when little things like that happen in a movie, I think it's they're fair game. I think it's plenty worth going after them. And especially that one, like you said, that was a. I mean, there were a few parts about that kind of were a little bit interesting for me because Jason Patric is sort of he's got this reputation in New Orleans as and in New Orleans, of course, where nobody speaks with a Cajun New Orleans accent, so nobody's really
Yeah,
from
right.
New Orleans in New Orleans. But in this New Orleans, he has this reputation of being a guy that kind of kills everybody, right? That he's a stone cold killer. He leaves nothing to chance. There's nobody that can take him out. And yet he, instead of actually shooting the mob boss, which you'd think that's what a guy like that could really do his thing would do, he decides to go the car bomb route. And I guess maybe didn't maybe he wasn't used to doing the car bomb thing, so he didn't really consider the fact that maybe that was the wife might take the car every once in a while.
Hmm.
And if he didn't consider that, I could see if he didn't care, right? Like, oh, I'm just gonna throw put the bomb in here, but it seems like that's like a really bad move, both from a standpoint of right. If you've got a conscience at all, it's bad, right? Because you don't want to kill an innocent person. You want to kill somebody who's sort of signed the same contract that you signed, right? That we're doing this whole underworld lifestyle, so we understand that we can be killed at any time by each other. Um, and so there's that part of it, but also the part of it is like if you try to put a bomb in a guy's car and he doesn't die, that's it. You've missed your chance because he's gonzo. I'm sure Bruce Willis's character was not hanging around out in the open after that for another chance to
Right.
kill him. So it just seems like somebody who was like the best there was at killing people would have done a better job of taking somebody out. I could see maybe if he tried to shoot him and accidentally shot the wife and daughter, and escaped. Like something went wrong in the killing. Or maybe Bruce Willis's character was a tougher guy to get. But the car bomb thing seemed too simple, and it didn't seem like it fit with Jason Patric's character. The same way I guess that the taking a picture of the kids going to school didn't fit with Bruce Willis's character.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. That he said, I tried to stop them, from getting in the car. Like he did, we said that we see that
Right.
little bit of a scene where he's
Yes.
like going, no, that's him trying to
Right.
stop them. What about that 30 minutes before they got in the car when they're posing for pictures in front of the car after she says, I'm going to take your car. And then, they're getting into he had a plenty of time to
Yes.
go, hey, don't get in that car. But he waits until they actually get into the car, and then she goes to crank the car, and he's like, "No," which was completely useless. But I thought that was kind of funny. I'm like, "What did you think they were doing? They're out here
Mhm.
posing like it's Olin Mills in front of their in
Right.
front of their automobile before they go to school. They're doing some glamour shots. You
Right.
got all this time. What did you then think was going to happen? Did you not think they were going to get into that car?
Mhm.
Because that's what I thought.
Mhm.
But he isn't very bright. We know this from the beginning when he's talking to his daughter on FaceTime or whatever, and she's looks strung out as all. I mean, she looks like
Yes.
Monica Keena. Like
Yes.
she is really strung out. Like she's been hanging out with Edward Furlong for months, and I'm looking at her. The first thing out of my mouth was, "God, she looks strung out." And then he's like, and then you hear the guy in the background, "Oh, the fucker," or whatever he
Yeah.
said. And then she's like, "Oh, I have to go because I have to go study." I'm like, "Bullshit, you have to go study." And
Yes.
he's like, "Okay." And I'm like, "What?"
I
You
know.
didn't notice there was something up with her in like 2 seconds immediately when you were talking, and then she's not even my kid, and I knew it.
Yeah.
You know,
I
like,
know.
come on, Dad, way to pay attention.
Yeah.
And for him to have been embroiled in the underworld, and part of the criminal, he has this whole criminal background, and you'd think he would be a little more hip to the goings on.
Right.
Like you think Liam Neeson would have? I mean, he's got a particular set of skills too. Do you think if he had talked to his daughter and actually seen her on Skype, he would have been like, "Okay, have fun with the human trafficking." I mean, it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
what is wrong with you?
He's like waving the pizza at her. Remember? Like, oh, bye.
Yeah,
See my pizza.
you're right.
Yeah.
Gonna have some pizza when you come home. And um I don't know, she seemed suspicious to me. She seemed like she was off. She seemed strung out. I mean, she had those deep circles under her eyes. He did say what's wrong, and she said, "Oh, I'm just tired." But I'm not buying that bullshit.
No.
I mean, of course, I had the benefit of knowing that something was going to happen, not
Mhm.
necessarily knowing exactly what it was, but that something was going to happen, and I guess he didn't. But he also had the benefit of, I don't know, being her father
Yes.
and knowing her. And I just thought that was a little bit oblivious,
Mm.
like, Dad, seriously.
Yes.
I mean, I half expected her to hold up a sign saying "Help me"
Mhm.
while she was talking to him. I mean, as it turns out, that I guess she kind of wanted to be there. I don't know, but um, it just, for every time, the whole time he was talking to her, I kept expecting her to like wink at him or make
Mhm.
some kind of signal or go "Help me." I
Right.
just knew that something was wrong, basically.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Well, then he calls her on FaceTime, and like this guy with the hood, the
yeah,
hat, and I mean, who just looks ridiculous, and it's like that's like the you like for me, I'm already thinking like, oh man, I hope that guy gets a beating later on in this film, because he was just so bad, and of course we never see him again, but I just love how it's like, hi, I'm Beth's dad, like
yeah.
really, really, I mean any dad that has any kind of like sense of their daughter. Like the moment they see some strange guy with a knit cap, overweight with a goatee, answering their daughter's phone is going to be like, "Who are you?" Not, "Hi, I'm Beth's dad." They're gonna be like, "Who are you?" Like, no, that's my daughter's phone. What are you doing on that? Why are you answering my daughter's phone as opposed to, "Hi, I'm Beth's dad." So that was interesting, the way that started, and it was interesting in the sense too that we were kind of like, we knew that this guy was going to kick ass at some point. We knew he was going to go down to New Orleans and take care of business. And so I guess when he gets down there and he starts to kind of, he breaks into her apartment, we start to kind of see him form a little bit better. But I think maybe that's where for me, I guess the film started out slowly, was that our main character just seemed like such a dunce, to start with. So.
He did seem a little thick,
Mhm.
and I thought that too. Like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
But he did, come around, and so I ended up really liking him. But in the beginning, I'm like, he's not paying attention at all.
No.
He's busy waving a pizza at her.
Yes.
A pizza.
Pizza.
He's busy waving a pizza at her, and she's like, I don't know, if she were to pan the phone down, you'd see the needle hanging out of her arm. And, like, god damn. Uh, but it was sweet that he was as caring as he was, and he was, yeah, I really liked him as a father.
Mhm.
Maybe in the future he'll pay better attention, but to
Yes.
context clues.
Mhm.
But I really did like him as a father, and I like how how much he loved her and how much he was willing to do for her. I thought he was really nice to her friend.
Hmm.
Um, and he seemed like just a good guy, just an all-around good guy. That even when you find out that the reason Bruce Willis is pissed off is because he killed his daughter and his wife, which is that's no bueno. Um,
Yes.
like even when you find that out, I still can't be mad at him because
Right.
I know he didn't do it on purpose. And even though yes, he was a hitman and that's what he did, he killed people, but he killed bad people. And so
Right.
I understand. And he was also really guilty about the whole thing. It was
Hmm.
eating him up inside for the past 20 years. So I
Yep.
mean, it's you can't be mad at him, and you just can't hate him after
Right.
regardless. And you want to see him win. You want to see him whip ass.
Hmm.
You want to see him just I don't know mow through these guys, which I think he did very effectively.
Hmm.
Um, we get that scene where he goes to the bar and in New Orleans and to find Eddie and the guy that his daughter has been last seen with,
Hmm.
and he ends up um, running into a guy that he spared this guy's life 20 years ago. As we find out, it was only because he ran out of ammunition, which I
Right.
think is awesome.
Yes.
But this it was a little bit heavy-handed to me that this guy was like, dude, 20 years ago, this guy cleaned up, he mowed down 7 people. You're gonna tell him everything he wants to know because he gives me the creeps.
Right.
I thought that was a little bit much.
Yeah, that line at the end, that part at the end, that guy gives me the creeps was a little bit weird. Yeah, that was a little
Yeah.
bit much.
But at the same time, um, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, all right. What I wanted from then was like, all right, well, good. Now I want to see him do that some more,
Hmm.
and we did. I mean,
Yeah.
we got we were promised a badass. He had this whole reputation. Heads are turning as soon as he comes into town because everyone knows who this guy is.
Hmm.
Um, Apparently, they all recognize Jason Patric 20 years later, unlike me. Um, but heads are turning when he's coming into town. He's got this reputation. People know who he is, and so we're promised this badass, this guy who can just kill people with just wild abandon,
Hmm.
and we get it.
Yeah.
We do get it, and I am totally happy with it. I mean, I love the fact that he just keeps warning people. He's like,
Hmm.
look. This is your only option. I'm
Right.
gonna walk out of here with my daughter, or you're not walking out of here at all.
Yeah.
Basically, you're gonna be dead. And anyone who tries to get in his way, that's what he does. That's what happens. Is they're
Yeah.
fucking dead. And I love that he throws his daughter over his shoulder. I mean, she's so drugged up, she doesn't even know what's going on. He throws her over his shoulder and shoots his way out of there,
Yes.
and she doesn't get hit once. And it doesn't throw off his aim or his balance or anything. I mean, that to me was just like when I was watching that scene, I'm like, this guy is a badass.
Yeah.
He's got this 100-pound chick just dangling over his shoulder, and he's shooting his way out of here like it's nothing.
Yeah. Oh,
That was pretty cool.
and tell me they didn't set that up perfectly by having that dork at the I mean this movie had a lot of jackasses in the film, of course, and they did a really great job of taking these jackasses and really, like, putting them out there. Like, we see these jackasses every day in our daily life. They're in line ahead of us buying a pack of cigarettes, or yelling to their buddy across the street while you're at the gas station. Whatever they're doing, they're but this film, it seemed like a lot of these Louisiana films that I watch, these Louisiana or Michigan DTV flicks, they actually elevate these characters to being like bigger deals, or they kind of base the films around them, and it kind of hurts my sensibilities. But this film, I really like that they had that jackass at the door of 50 Cent's place, where Jason Patric goes in and he frisks Jason Patric and takes his gun from him, and we knew Jason Patric was going to get that back, right? We knew, like, even though he says it, we knew also that he was going to, get that back from the guy. And we're just waiting to see how it was going to happen. And the way they use that, to have him go into 50 Cent's room, and that guy is behind him, and, Jason Patric is just essentially telling him, like, listen, the warning I'm giving you is that if you don't let me take my daughter out of here, you're dead. So if you want to stay alive, you can let me take my daughter out of here. And we're just kind of waiting to see how he's going to get the gun off of that guy. And when he does it, I mean, the rapid fire shooting, the way he cleans out that room was so fantastic. And for that to be the start too, because that's like just the start of like what you said, where he takes his daughter, then puts her over his shoulder, carries her in front of, however he's carrying her throughout this place, and just shooting his way out. Yeah, like you said, that was, I mean, the whole film had kind of an old Western feel.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly what I was thinking about.
Mm-hmm. And that was, for me, that scene was almost the culmination of it. Like, it was just so real, like, you know, like John Wayne without any problematic aspects to it or whatever, you know, like, no.
Yeah, man. He throws Miss Kitty over his shoulder and kicks open the saloon door and starts just not that John Wayne ever was on Gunsmoke, but I mean,
Right, but
yes. I'm just pulling Western tropes here, people. Roll with me. Right. But that's exactly what I was picturing. The whole time I was talking about that scene, I was picturing it being like a Western. And then, like, you just see him just, like, tossing her over his horse, jumping on and riding off. And it's just, he just mows through the place and then takes off. And I loved it. I really did. I was completely wrapped up in that whole scene. The only complaint I have about his daughter is that I think it took her, she got over her deal a little bit too quick.
Yeah.
You know, considering as fucked up as she was and all that was going on, I think she would have spent the rest of the movie puking and having the DTs and curled up in a corner with a cold sweat.
Yes.
Not really being able so much to pay attention to what was going on, much less help her dad. Like, let's go home and help her dad walk out of the building at the end. But I'm gonna give him that too, because I don't really care. I mean, she was a minor character when all is said and done. It really had nothing to do with her. She just was the reason that he was there. So, you know, whatever. But I did think that was kind of funny, though. I'm like, well, she's awfully mobile to be in the situation she's in, but whatever.
Yeah, what do they say? She threw up a couple times, she's going to be better. That was what the friend said. Yeah.
She's like, she'll be better. And he's like, well, at least he then said, no, it's going to get a lot worse.
Yeah.
Which is true, but I guess they just timed her getting worse till later, so we don't need to worry about it.
Yes.
I like the fact that he was wearing a bulletproof vest. I like that. A big thing that I while we were watching this is that when we see the scene where after one of his battles, you see him sewing himself up when he's at John Cusack's house.
Yes.
And he has bruises on his chest and on his arms. And that made me so happy, because as much as I love my action heroes, I get kind of tired of seeing them go through battle after battle after battle after battle and walking away without even a scratch. Or it'll be like maybe, you know, a cut over their eye or something like that. But I'm like, you take off your shirt, you're going to be covered with bruises. If you get into fights like that, I don't care if you win or not, your flesh is going to be bruised. That's what happens. If you get hit, you bruise. You're not fucking Superman.
Right.
And you may be a badass, but you're not impenetrable. You know, you're going to bruise. And so when they actually took the time to give him bruises, I was... Thank you.
Yes.
I really like those little bitty things, those little bitty nitpicky things make me happy when they take the time to do it. And I think a lot of times, I don't know if they just don't think about it. Excuse me. I don't know if they don't think about it, or if they don't want, maybe they're trying to give the illusion that their guy is, you know, he's so unbeatable that he just doesn't bruise or something, you know, which is just completely unrealistic. What we got here was realistic. And even the part where he was sewing up himself, I thought the makeup looked fantastic there. To me, it actually looked like he was sewing his actual skin.
Yeah.
So unless they paid him extra to cut a gash in his stomach and sew up his own skin, then that was some damn fine makeup.
Well, and so that begs the question that perhaps that makeup person, maybe they only had that makeup person for a short period of time, or could that makeup person have made Bruce Willis look younger for that scene instead of digitally doing it?
Well, I don't know, maybe.
I don't know how
Yeah.
that kind of thing works, but yeah, I mean, I think like you talked, I think touches like that because again, some of the things they tried to do, they just did not have the budget or the means to pull off, the resources to pull off, like the car chase scene that I just thought was like woefully inadequate. Um, but other, I think I like it when a film tries to make up for it with touches like the ones you're talking about there. It shows that the film isn't an afterthought to these people. That and I guess it allows me to forgive something like the car chase because I can say, okay, they tried to do the best they could with that car chase, even with the resources they had. Maybe something happened. Who knows? Maybe a shot that they wanted didn't take, so they had to splice things together. Which is we did get a lot of splicing in that chase scene. So who knows? Who knows what happened? But if you see them pay attention to other details, it's very easy to say, okay, something must have gone wrong with that, as opposed to going like, oh, they just didn't care.
Right. Right. And to me, that's okay. I mean, I am much more willing to forgive mistakes or accidents than I am just not giving a damn.
Right.
And we talked about that. I think it was last week. We talked about that extensively
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to asylum films.
Yes.
And there's a big difference between not giving a damn about your final product and not being able to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I will forgive you for having a low budget, and I will forgive you for a lot of sins, a myriad of sins, as long as you impart to me that you care
Mm-hmm.
about what you're doing and you're trying to do your best. That's what's important to me.
Exactly.
And um, so I'm not going to fault you for not having the money to do something big, but I am going to fault you for not giving a shit
Right.
because you expect me to pay money to see your product. So I expect you to care about what you're putting out there. And
Yes.
I really feel like this one did. I felt like this was a guy. I like this movie a lot. I mean, I really do. As a matter of fact, when I think we ended up giving this a 4 on Netflix,
Wow.
and it was averaging like a 3,
Mm-hmm.
and Brian kicked it up to 4, and which I didn't even tell him to do that. I was gonna say at least a 3, or I said at least a 3, and he gave it a 4. I'm like, hey, good for you. I think it deserves that little bump in the average.
Wow.
I am okay with that because we both had a good time with this one. This is one time he did not bitch. He did not complain.
I was gonna say, I think that might be the best recommendation. It's one thing if you or I recommend a film, but for Brian to say, hey, for him to give it a 4 unprompted, I think that is the best. And again, I think it's good that we can watch a film like this and tell people, hey. Don't, any fears you might have had by seeing those names splashed on the cover and having been burned by films in the past, this one's not going to burn you. This one's going to deliver. So, go out there and check this one out. I think it's good to be able to do that on a film like this because so many times for us it's the other way around. We're saying like this is bad. Avoid the siren song of these faces on the cover and skip it. We're actually able to say, hey, no, it's good, check it out. And I like that. I like that we can do that for once.
Hey, who you telling?
Yeah.
I like it too, mainly because it means that I didn't have to suffer through a shitty movie. I
Yes.
I got to watch a good movie for this, which
Yes.
we do on occasion. And we've
Right.
watched a lot of good movies.
Mhm.
But I don't know if you were to weigh out the ratio. I think the ratio
Yeah,
good to
it's a
bad
tough.
usually falls outside of our favor.
Yes.
So it's always a pleasant thing when I get to walk away with a movie smiling and
Yes.
thinking to myself, "Hey, I get to say good things tonight."
Yes.
It's fun for me to get to not only watch the good movie but then talk about the good movie.
Mhm.
And it's probably fun for our listeners too because how often do they get that?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Well, maybe that's the place to leave it. Then is that it's good and it's good in a way that we enjoyed talking about. I don't think we had a single digression in this episode, so I think that should tell you. The last time we had that happen was Wolf Cop, which was another great one. So the digression meter was low. So yes, I think everybody should definitely check this one out. So Jamie, why don't we take a look at what have you got going on in other projects?
Well, just today I had the newest episode of Devour the Podcast drop, and in that one, we were talking about. Yep, I can't remember what we were talking about. Um, I know that David, one of my regular co-hosts there, is on hiatus. So Mike Merriman from Evil Episodes, the show that I do with Brian and Mike,
Mm-hmm.
um, he dropped in
Mm.
to do a guest spot to talk with Bo and me. And I honestly can't remember what the movies were. Oh, We're Still Here was one of them.
Okay.
And so he dropped in to talk, and that's a ghost movie with Barbara Crampton of all.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, so that was fun, and that just came out today, so people can check that out if they choose. We've got a new Evil episodes that we're going to be recording probably tomorrow, where we're going to be talking about Killdozer,
Mm-hmm.
and that's exciting. Um, and then, of course, Skeleton Crew still pumping out our pre-recorded Nightmare on Elm Street retro, and the episode 4 just came out Monday. So that's what I've got going on there.
Now, episode 4, was that the one that was in 3D, or was that 5?
That was 5.
5
The
was the 3D.
the,
Okay.
the end, like or was it 6? Shoot, I think it was 6.
So 6.
It
Okay.
was like like the last 10 minutes or 15 minutes.
Right.
Was in 3D. Yeah, 4 is. Nah, it's not that great, but it's not as bad as 5 or 6. So
Right.
there's something.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a sense, I think, maybe after 3 or after 4, that it was like they had to keep making them. There was I guess a sense that same with the Friday the 13th. Even though I liked it, I liked Part 8. I liked Jason Takes Manhattan, and I also liked 6 and 7. So those ones seem to keep moving well. Whereas the Nightmare on Elm Street, maybe they felt like they had to keep up because they were the other big franchise at the time.
Yeah, I think that's it, and I really feel like Friday managed to hold itself together quite a bit better than Nightmare or Halloween,
Mm-hmm.
which was another big franchise. That one just,
Yeah.
it. mm,
Yeah.
I think of all of those. I mean, it's just Friday was the one who managed to still maintain. There are some Fridays I don't like
Right.
when we get closer to the end, but even then, overall, I think they have a higher ratio of good to bad. So
Yeah, I think the one that a lot of people don't like is 6, and for me, 6 has a special place in my heart because it was like the first one I
right,
saw. Because I kind of I was young and I was afraid. All my friends were watching them before that, and I was afraid of how scary it was going to be. And then I actually watched 6 with my friend and realized it's not scary. That they're actually a lot of fun. It kind of kindled my interest in horror. I didn't realize that horror movies were that much fun. I thought they were just supposed to be scary. And so 6 always kind of has a special place in my heart. But I felt like 7 and 8 were kind of they sort of the series kind of bounces back. Because for me my favorite is 4, but that's just because it's Crispin Glover and Corey Feldman. But
and Ted White,
Ted
one of
White.
the best Jasons ever. He was
Yes.
such an angry Jason, and
Mhm.
he just ripped through those teenagers beautifully.
Yes, he did.
I love that one. That is such a good movie.
It
but
is. It is.
I always loved 6 too.
Yeah.
Well, 6 was filmed in Georgia,
Oh,
and
okay.
I actually went to high school with one of the little camp kids
Mm-hmm.
that's in the movie, and she has a speaking role even. But I went to high school with her, and so 6 is very close to my heart. I love it very much. I didn't realize that many people didn't like it until I started doing podcasting, and a lot of people complain about the fact that it was as comedic as it was, but I
Mm-hmm.
always enjoyed that aspect of it. It was never a problem for me. But I personally I think 8 or Manhattan is pretty boring. That Jason just sort of stands around and looks a lot.
Yes.
Try this. The next time you watch that movie, every time Jason peeks around a corner and go, "Hello," just do that, and you will crack yourself up at how many times you get to do that. It's really
That's,
fun.
yeah, see, I think that one. I think maybe 8 is another one that kind of it just kind of, I don't know. I think I saw that one in the theater. But
Oh yeah, I mean,
yeah,
well, with a trailer like that one had,
yes,
with Jason on the rooftop, and you know they're playing New York, New York. How could you not see that in
yes,
the theater? I
yeah,
mean, you
yes.
kind of had to. And he was on Arsenio Hall
Right,
promoting that
that's
movie.
right. Yes, yeah. So that was, I mean, that was a different. It was a different time for those movies back then. And I think really that's what it was. I think that Nightmare or Friday the 13th still had that power. I mean Halloween, I think more than any of them really dropped off. Like they were almost
Oh,
direct
that
to video at that point.
shit the bed.
Yeah.
It was so, it got so bad in that franchise. And they were just trying to, I mean, they tried to turn Michael Myers into another Jason,
Yes.
and just didn't, it didn't work for me. I mean, there are a lot of Halloween fans out there, and if some of them are listening, I'm sorry, but that franchise is terrible. It really is. I mean, it starts out wonderful and it starts
Hmm.
out really strong, but once you get past part 3, I'm pretty much done with it. I think H2O, on multiple viewings, I've kind of come around to that one, particularly the end of that, like the final chase scene, I really like. But like 4 is tolerable, but 5 and 6,
Yeah.
what the hell? And I mean, just quit it. Um,
Yeah, I
you know,
felt like they were just trading on the name at that point. They just, and maybe with Nightmare on Elm Street, it wasn't so much that they were trading on the name. It was more like the studio was demanding
yeah. Well,
sequels.
I mean, Freddy was he was a popular character,
Hmm.
and you can see when you're watching the Nightmare films in a row, like I did to do this retrospective. You can see the moment when it switches from
Hmm.
being about nightmares in general and trying to be scary, to when it switches to being just the Freddy show.
Yes.
And that, I think, was a really big mistake.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think it was just, I think I think with anything that's in Hollywood, I think that's the problem with Hollywood is that, and now it seems to be like with direct to video because now they do direct to video sequels of Hollywood films. But it seems like that's anything with Hollywood because the money is there. That there's always going to be that one sequel. Well, you'd think it's always going to be that one sequel too many, but sometimes it seems to be 2 or 3 sequels too many.
yeah, as we see a lot in the horror genre.
Yeah,
Uh,
especially.
like Hellraiser. Oh,
Yes, yes,
goodness. Amityville Horror, that's another one that
yeah.
just, what the fuck? I mean, by the time we're done with that franchise, you've got a haunted mirror, a haunted clock, a haunted lamp, and seriously, I mean, I keep waiting for them to be like, "Oh, the haunted bedroom slippers," or
Yes.
it just they just ran out of steam
Hmm.
and tried to force it, and you can't.
That
You
was it.
gotta put your money and your time into something else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. That
But
was
anyway,
no,
I get off on that all the time. So
yeah, yeah.
people are like, "Talk about something else." Damn.
Why not? Why exactly? Well, I guess for me, as far as things, I again, it's a whole lot of nothing going on with me, and in fact, I'm like in such a bad spot now. I'm forget doing blog posts. I'm having trouble keeping up with getting our podcasts up. Like I said, I'm getting them up on iTunes. I'm just not getting them doing the
You
Facebook.
have one job.
Yeah, I know. I gotta get that. I know. I know. Between you and me, we both do. If we together, we do about 5 or 6 podcasts. But really, I just do the one. So, right. But yeah. So I'm still. Hopefully, at least at the very least, we'll try to get the podcast so that's like more regular. And I know, there's some messages on Facebook we've got. I would answer. I haven't even checked my Yahoo email for Director Video Connoisseur in months. So who knows? People are probably like saying, "Will you review my film?" And they wouldn't have heard back anyway, probably if I had read it. But they're really not hearing back now because I haven't checked it at all. Um, so yeah, hopefully we'll take care of all that. I probably got an email too from my domain uh, company telling me that I need to refresh. I need to update that because if I don't update that, somebody else is going to grab my domain, and that would be a lot of fun. Yeah. So
Oh,
I was going to say so.
when
Oh, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I just remembered something that I did. I went to see the Jaws 40th anniversary
Mm.
re-release this past Sunday. They're doing it again tonight. Fathom Events is doing that, and it's like simulcast. And so we went to that, and then after we did that, we went to Jaws Jumbo Burgers, and which is a Jaws themed burger place here.
Oh, that sounds nice.
So it was really fun. I mean, the burger place is it's a tiny little hole in the wall place, but it's a really cute idea, really nice people, and the burgers are good. So that was a fun experience. We had a whole Jaws day on Sunday.
Now that, man, I love the idea of Jaws Burger. That just sounds like a pretty sweet deal. I'm like, and seeing Jaws in the theater like that would be awesome as well. I would love to check that out. 40th anniversary already.
I know. Yeah. It's crazy. See, that's what I'm talking about.
I know. We were just talking about that. Well, I guess at that point it's kind of past my bedtime. It's probably time to turn on Matlock and call it an evening. But thank you all because we're getting up there in age now suddenly with all of these milestones or these people hitting. I'm
gonna watch Murder, She Wrote.
Right, exactly. Murder, She Wrote and Matlock on the Hallmark Channel. We're gonna go take care of that right now. But thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week here at the DTVC podcast.
Yep. Have a great week, guys. Thanks.
Goodbye, everyone.
Hear that? That's the sound of a patient whose health data is protected from a cyber attack. And that's the sound of a financial system that's digitally secured from bad actors. Right now, there's an invisible war being fought on a digital battlefield that impacts what we do every day. That's why at Peraton, we do the can't be done to help protect the vital systems we rely on. Because if we don't, the alternative is unimaginable. Peraton.